Can consciousness be found outside of the mind? In fact, can the universe itself be conscious? Are the quantum fields that form quantum particles, are they being observed by an ultimate observer? Is there a mind that pulls the strings of reality? Is our brain just a receptacle, a receiver, if you will, of consciousness from that ultimate observer? This is what we need to find out. Coming up next. In quantum field theory, the behaviors of particles is described in terms of fields, fields that stretch out across the entire cosmos. Each type of particle is associated with a field, but you can imagine this field is like an ocean of waves of different layers, each particle having a different field stacked on top of another field. And it's the interactions of these fields that describe particles and how they interact with each other. For example, the electromagnetic force is described by this field of charged particles. One of the key features of quantum field theory is the concept of particle-wave duality. According to this idea, particles can exhibit both particle-like and wave-like behaviors depending on the context of their interactions. This is because particles are described as excitations of fields, and fields can exhibit wave behavior. So at a certain level of excitation, you will get a particle, and it takes a certain level of excitation of a specific type of field to produce a particle for that field. Since you can describe interactions in this way, we can also describe what is known in quantum mechanics as the observer effect. The observer effect, using quantum field theory, would be that the observer, based on the interaction of the observer, causes enough excitation of a field to essentially cause decoherence or create a particle. So when we look at things like the double slit experiment, it's the measuring device that entangles itself with the field in such a way to create excitation to produce an actual particle. And at that point, you get particle behavior instead of wave behavior. So it's not the consciousness of the observer that creates the excitation in the field, but rather it's just the interaction, because the way you're observing it in some way excites the field enough to produce this particle. Problem with that, and it's a big one really, is that there are experiments that show that you can erase the effect of the observer. In other words, you can erase the information about the observation in such a way that the particle becomes just a wave again. And it's not that you've removed the excitation. What you've done is removed information. Again, that is one interpretation, is quantum field theory, but it has its problems. So if we look at all of the different particles that there are out there and how they interact with each other, and the concept of a field theory, we are still left with the question of what creates the actual reality of particles. Even if you say it's the interaction of measurement, that somehow the measuring device excites the field, we still have an information paradox in that information clearly has been demonstrated to be the reason for the particle's formation. If that is true, which so far evidence supports quite well, then what really does cause the excitation of the field? Is there an ultimate observer? Because if we go down far enough, we have to ask the question, what created that? Is it really our interaction or some other interaction? And if we can prove that it's not the interaction of our device, such as a beam splitter or a crystal or mirrors, if it is information, then does consciousness itself have a field? And does consciousness, like particles, can be explained in a way by which we can describe excitation of a consciousness field? And at certain points in that consciousness field, you get conscious particles. And those particles are the basis by which we have feelings. Love, pain, sorrow, all of those sensations can be generated from excitation of a conscious field that spreads throughout the universe. In the same way that your electron has a field, and the various different quarks have a field. Bosons have a field. If you think of quantum field theory and include consciousness as a type of field, then consciousness being entangled with the fields of quantum particles, so that information that is gathered into consciousness in such a way that it can do excitation of particle fields to produce particles, Interesting question, isn't it? That is what we need to find out. Because if this is true, then the entire universe is endued completely from end to end with a consciousness. And we are but like particles in this field of consciousness. We but are localized excitations of this conscious fields right inside our mind. So there are some very well-known scientists who have developed some very intriguing theories. The Ork-Or theory suggests exactly what I'm describing. That our consciousness is able to pick up what we call consciousness. Our minds are able to pick up these ripples in the fabric of the universe. Literally, the decisions that are made by the universe, when they are made, we are able to sense those changes. And it's these changes that we pick up as conscious sensations. And if that's true, what is the ultimate consciousness? What do you want to call that? I don't know about you, but if consciousness pervades the entire universe and likely is the foundation of all reality, in that all particles that exist basically ebbs up from the bottom layer of consciousness to various different layers of quantum fields. That essentially the energy of consciousness gets transferred into what we think of as solid reality. And that it is consciousness that actually determines the course of our reality, which basically through deductive reasoning implies that all the forces of nature are due to this consciousness that fields the entire universe. The universe is filled with this field of consciousness all about us. Well, I don't know about you, but I would call that a scientific proof of God. My name is Michael. If you found this intellectually stimulating, no matter what your background is, please hit that subscribe and like button. Got plenty more coming up next.